launched it for the modern executives, managers, and military officers to learn from Cyrus's leadership and wisdom. It is an interesting twist how he uses Cyropedia into this modern management science book. According to the introduction of the book, I quote, 2,500 years ago, Cyrus, a great Persian leader of wisdom and virtue, created Persian Empire, conquered Babylon, freed 40,000 Jews from captivity, wrote mankind's first human rights charter, and ruled over those he had defeated with respect and benevolence. The next paragraph is very interesting. The Iranians came to regard Cyrus as the father, the Babylonians as the liberator, and the Jews as the anointed of the Lord, and the Greeks called him the lawgiver. What a varied way he is explained in the old days. And a century after Cyrus's death, an admiring Xenophon of Athens wrote an epic account of Cyrus's many leadership principles at war and peace. Now, by fashioning the voice and style that Xenophon ascribed to Cyrus, Larry Hedrick in this book has fashioned a more intimate Cyrus. A new generation of readers, including executives, managers, and military officers, can now learn from Cyrus's leaderships and wisdom in Xenophon narratives. Interesting. Now we come to Herodotus. He was called actually the father of history. His merits are that he was an historian. The most prominent are the diligence with which he collected his material, the candor and impartiality with which he has placed his facts before the reader, absence of party bias and undue national vanity, and the breadth of his conception of the historian's office. This was very important, and he has written quite a bit about Cyrus, and it can be in the first book, 180, paragraph 180 and onwards. The whole 8 books are available, as you see, in internet. I have mentioned this on the top of the slide number 48. I'm going to slide number 49. And lo and behold, a famous composer, Handel, writes an oratorio, Belshazzar. Remember, Belshazzar was the king when Cyrus took the Babylon. Then, not only that, but Rembrandt, Belshazzar's Feast, is a famous painting, and it shows the writing on the wall. According to the legend, when he was having this great merriment and so on, drinking wine from Jehovah's vessel, all of a sudden an invisible hand comes and writes on the wall, as you see there, in 4 words. The words are up and down, not sideways, and it is from right to left, and the 4 words are, as I said, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Belshazzar was completely astounded, and he asked some of his wise people to translate what it means. Nobody can do it except Daniel, who was in his captivity. And what Daniel said, the meaning of these 4 words, is well represented by Lord Byron in his beautiful poem, Vision of Belshazzar. And these are his last lines in there. Belshazzar's grave is made. This is the meaning of the 4 words. Belshazzar's grave is made, his kingdom passed away. He in the balance weighed is light and worthless clay. The shroud his robe of state, his canopy the stone, the beautiful, the Mede is at his gate, the Persian on his throne. What a wonderful way of depicting, and Lord Byron is always my favorite. Now going to slide number 50. The most amazing and puzzling fact is such a great poet that we had in Ferdowsi. He completely ignores the whole Achaemenian and Parthian dynasty, which is almost 600 to 700 years. Ferdowsi ends the Kianian dynasty with King Dara, which he kind of identifies with the last Achaemenid dynasty, Darius III, who was defeated by Alexander the Cursed in 330 BC. There is no mention of Cyrus, Darius, Xerxes, and other emperors. Why? We don't know. After Alexander, he describes Parthian dynasty, who ruled for almost 400 years, as a brief mention, few lines. Then he described Ardashir Papakan of the Sasanian dynasty, founder of the Sasanian dynasty, thus missing many centuries of Iranian history. We have no idea why that happened, but this is very puzzling fact about Firdowsi's Shahnama. So now we come to the United Nations. On October 14, 1971, Princess Ashraf Pahlavi, sister of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, presented the United Nations Secretary General U Thant with a replica of the Cyrus Cylinder. The princess asserted that the heritage of Cyrus the Great was the heritage of human understanding, tolerance, courage, compassion, and above all, human liberty. The Secretary General accepted the gift, linking the cylinder with the efforts of the United Nations General Assembly to address the question of respect for human rights in armed conflict. Since then, I have a problem right now. Okay. Since then, the replica was then kept at the United Nations headquarters in New York City on the second floor hallway, and the text has been translated into all 6 official UN languages. Shashi Tharoor, as I mentioned before, is explaining the Cyrus Cylinder at United Nations, and I have given you a file in my attachment which says UN press release for Cyrus Cylinder, gift by Shah Reza Pahlavi. So you will see that it is depicted and exhibited in United Nations building. Now we come to the Quran. Dhul Qarnayn, literally the possessors of 2 horns, is a figure mentioned in the Quran where he is described as a great and righteous ruler who built a wall that keeps Gog and Magog from attacking the people. The story of Dhul Qarnayn appears in 15 verses of Quran, specifically verses 18, 83 to 98. Identification of him in historical context is not clear. Character is usually identified as Alexander the Great. In some modern scholarship, though, now the character is identified as Cyrus the Great, and the theory has been endorsed by such scholars as Madhuri, Javed Ahmad Ghamidi, and our very favorite Indian minister and ex-India president, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Alame Taba Tabaybe, Nasser Makaram Shirazi, and others. So, many Islamic scholars believe that it is Cyrus the Great, and their evidence includes artifacts, stone carving, palaces, and graves. Some of the reasons are, in the carved stone at Pasargad, Cyrus is shown with his crown with 2 horns. If you remember, there is a picture on your slides. According to the Quran, Cyrus was the first king several hundred years before Alexander the Accursed, who conquered most of the Europe and Asia. Cyrus was a monotheist and worshipped the god, but Alexander had many gods. In Quran, Dhul Qarnayn noted that the journey begins to the west and then to the east, before the road to the other, the north, which coincided with Cyrus's Persian conquest in the west prior to capturing northeast. Expedition of Cyrus proceeded with the conquest of all the other countries. They used the techniques of wall construction, which was not used anymore by the Greeks at that time. In accordance to the story in Quran, more chances of it being Cyrus, as he ended his expedition in 542 BC before returning to Persia, while Alexander was still in war mission when he died. Now I'm on 54.